So hi, I'm here with Matteo Collina from NearForm. And the first thing I'm going to say, Matteo, it's lovely to see you, but I can't help but notice you're wearing two watches today. What's that all about?
Hi, Katie. So I'm very happy to be here
Yeah?
as well. Just arrived and I gather my Node watch at when I checked in at the conference. It's programmable with JavaScript and it runs as Perino, and it's available on Kickstarter if you want it now. And you can write your programs in JavaScript and load them on the watch. It's pretty cool, right?
It's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah. I can't wait to play with it, right? Literally, I just got it and put it on. It doesn't even have the right time on it or something right now, but it's pretty fun.
I've got mine as well, but I haven't managed to break it yet, which means I've just not been playing with it hard enough yet. So that's what it is. So anyway, I wanted to ask, how did you get into Node in the first place?
This is a nice question. Goes back to a long time ago, and it was around December 2010, January 2011, long time ago actually. In tech-wise. I was just starting with my PhD, and my PhD was on the Internet of Things and connecting things, and I needed some technology to write servers that enabled me to connect multiple devices at the same time around multiple protocols that also looked good on benchmarks, and it was fast. And the other alternatives at that time was Java or .NET. However, it was just myself writing code.
Yeah.
So I needed something that has a very high productivity on one side, and on the other, it was very simple to write.
Yeah.
And on the other side, it performed well. And I loved scripting languages. I also came from a Ruby background.
Yeah.
Did a lot of Ruby in the past, before that. And so I decided to roll with Node. And, I've been using Node ever since, I don't know, 2011, and just been keep writing Node code.
So you must have been on some of the very early versions of Node.
Yeah, my first version of Node, the first version of Node I worked on was 0.2,
Wow.
then did 0.4, migrated everything from 0.4 to 0.6, then 0.8 finally. That was really production ready, okay? 0.6 was not production ready. And then 0.10, and then fast forward now, we have Node 13 just shipped some weeks ago. So, I've been working, and then at the end of 2015, I became a Node Core collaborator.
Yeah.
So I started working on Node Core itself.
Yeah.
And that was, pretty good, and keep contributing to Node up until now, and doing a lot of nice things in Node. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe people hate me, but whatever, who knows. People haven't been throwing tomatoes at me at conferences, so likely they don't hate me so much.
I don't think they hate you. So, what do you think are the major learnings from Node over the last 10 years?
Node has been both a big technical experiment and a big social experiment.
Yeah.
So Node is the first major platform that came to life, was born outside of a big company sponsoring it. Essentially, there is no. If you look at the other major software platforms they are all baked by a big company, big entity that is spearheading their work. Look at Java, look at .NET, and look at Python to some extent, and so on. They've been a very big company stewardship to some extent, to bootstrap and bring them to scale. And Node instead was born out of collaboration from GitHub. Like Node is the first big post GitHub community that was born, and so it's all about open collaboration and getting more people involved and getting all sides of a discussion being heard, versus a model where I'm just pushing technology out and announcing them at my big company event the year after, essentially.
So the direction for Node isn't driven by one group of people, it's driven by the community.
So it's been all driven by the community. Everybody can come and propose changes and propose new APIs, and they will be heard. Essentially, it's if you want something changed in the platform, if you want something done, you are more than welcome to come and join us and propose your ideas, and if they fit the rest of the ecosystem, we are very happy to hear your ideas and lend your contributions.
Yeah. So speaking of contributions, what would you say have been your top 3 contributions over the last period of time?
Okay. So my biggest contributions. These is to some extent another questions, because I always want to talk about what's coming.
We can do that next.
So one of the biggest one has been adding async iterators to node streams. Async iterators is a new feature in the JavaScript language that just got standardized last year, and it enables you to write very simple terse code to process all the data coming from a stream. And I've been adding those APIs to the to Node.js to integrate with this new word, with this new API in the language, new syntax in the language is available. And doing that work actually enabled a lot of spark of activity in the community, and now folks are actually liking it and using it in real life, and so oh, I wrote that. It's like it gets it's very inspiring. Another thing that I've done was was when I still on Node stream. I work a lot on Node streams. I maintain Node streams. They're one of the underpinnings of the whole Node runtime. And it has been adding another method there called destroy, standardizing that. Unfortunately, I botched the first version of it. So you made a mistake, and I made a mistake, and then we fixed it one version later. So
I think I remember that. I remember you were saying on Twitter, but it was fixed very, very quickly. It was rolled forward, which is the right way to fix things.
Yeah, but still, I fixed it, but still was but it's very hard when you're writing and maintaining a platform.
Yeah.
It's very hard to get all the use cases right when you write them, when you think about stuff, because you can have, when you have this massive amount of folks using your platform, you can break some very subtle use cases that are very important for a group of people, but that you're not even aware of. So one of the things that get me more excited about Node was this year I ended up doing some training on design systems.
Yeah.
And I typically maintain Node, and I'm a technical director in NearForm now, so I'm doing kind of engineering management type of things. But I ended to do managing some designer from time to time, so I had to learn a little bit more about design systems. And I was there in this room full of designers and that were building things with CSS and so on and so forth. And doing the practical part, they all of them installed Node.js, and they were just like, okay, now we had an impact here. Like, we have enabled all this big group of people to build new things, to build new stuff that they couldn't before, because we had Node.
Yeah.
So it's such a nice jolt in this. My last PR, I said you asked for me for 3, so I have 3.
3.
I had 3. I had the third one. Actually, it's probably not having a big impact. However, it did have such a good thing for me, which was the first one that I got landed, that I landed on Node Core, which was probably the second one, not the first one, the second one that I got landed on Node Core. And I did some performance optimization on Node streams, and it was a nice thing, because Node got, in some very important use cases, Node got maybe 10% faster, which I felt was kind of substantial. So
that's really impressive.
Yeah.
So I said I'd let you talk about the upcoming pull requests, that one you've got open yet, the ones that haven't quite landed. What have you got out there?
I have one. So one of the nice things, or bad things, about Node and about open source work is that it can take some significant amount of time to get new ideas landed and implemented in the platform. So there has been a long conversation and a long series of problems related to promises and unhandled rejections. Promises and under rejection are, there is some issues where in certain situation, like very nicely looking code could lead to memory leaks or bugs.
Yeah.
In some very rare cases, and these will hunt, production system badly in the wild. And being a consultant and so on, working for NearForm, as I saw all these problems. And I've been pretty vocal about we need to get this fixed, we need to get this fixed, we need to get this fixed. And I started thinking about this problem for a long time, and I found out where we could have improved things, especially on node streams.
Yeah.
And which is one of the cause of the problem, because it doesn't really play very well with promises and so on. So I had been putting all the work. I've started thinking about this problem for years, and then in May I opened the pull request, and it's still open. And every time I receive a round of feedback, I fix the feedback, implement the feedback, and I said, "Oh, I've implemented it. Is there anything more that we can change and so on?" And they came back, and then folks came back and said, and then there is more, improving on this, and it could be a little bit tiring for newcomers if you're pushing a big, significant change.
Yeah.
But in fairness, it's how things get improved better in the open source community. So it's also a very good thing. But I hope to get that landed sooner rather than later. So.
Yeah, it's a common problem. To be honest, it's one that we've had in my work at the BBC. So having that landed will benefit me. So thank you so much for your hard work on it.
It's a very big, it's a significant problem, and it's essentially I'm adding a new feature, a new API. I'm adding some new APIs to Node, some new options to turn on more safe mode for promises. So it's a flag on event emitter, which will be called capture rejections. And essentially, when you have a rejection in any event handler, it will actually be automatically turned into an error event on the event emitter. And this can be intercepted by code. So for example, streams will actually destroy the stream. Yeah. So if you are using an async function, which are really popular and used by every single developer, in an event handler on a stream or a server or anything, it will, instead of just being, going into nowhere and possibly crashing your process or whatever, because there's no real way to handle this, it will have moved into being, being captured, and then the stream will be teared down. So there's no memory leak related to the streams and so on. So no pending HTTP request, no ghost or phantom HTTP request.
No, just hanging in the middle of nowhere.
Essentially, yes. So.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully soon.
It's hopefully soon.
So, what do you think are the most significant opportunities for Node over the next 3 years?
So, Node.js is a little bit in a transformational phase. It has moved from being a technologies for early adopters to being a technology for mainstream.
Yeah.
And to some extent, in some cases, it has just faded in the background. You don't really, think you're using Node while you are using Node. And the fact that somebody maintains Node is actually very important. I think about all the Node.js is part of every single company development workflow. You cannot develop for the web today without using Node.
Yeah.
Like every single big enterprise is using Node for for building their websites, just for tools. Even though it's not running on the server, it's not, it just faded in the background.
Yeah.
On the other side, it's faded in the background on the server as well, because right now, a lot of companies are just using serverless platforms.
Yeah.
Where, yes, you know that you have a version of Node running there, but you have a lot less control of it. It's basically managed, so you have, it's fading. It's just becoming part of how people write code now.
Yeah.
So one of the key challenge is to to accept this new reality, and not losing the innovation and the flame and the spirit of the early days while we transition to be part of the foundation of the web platform. There are a lot of other new things happening. There are lot of innovation happening as well, related to WebAssembly, for example.
Yeah.
It's a very hot topic these days, and this will become more and more important for Node going forward. Then we have there are worker threads which become stable, so you can now run multiple threads in Node, which other platforms could have done for a long time, but there is some significant challenges for JavaScript, and those challenges have been overcome and implemented. So in Fire, you can now do them in Node, and it's pretty powerful. So it's a good API.
Cool. So I've got a final question for you now.
Yay.
I run teams of developers, and I try to encourage them to become involved with the open source community. Now, as a maintainer of the Node project, how would you encourage them to become involved? What would they do to take that first step towards becoming an open source contributor?
So these are the different questions inside of this. The first one is, first of all, they need to have time and to join that movement. So which means that they need to free up time from somewhere else in their life, typically work, to be part of that community. And this has values for employers and for the community itself, for the project that that employer uses, and so on and so forth. So, but the employers need to start realizing that and enabling them to do the work. Okay? The second one, and this is possibly the hardest one. This is possibly the hardest problem. Once there is willingness from their employer to spend time on open source, then it comes on. It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
So you don't need to force people to do it. A lot of people won't care. There is a big social aspect of doing open source that a lot of people do not consider. So it's not just about doing code. Okay, it's the most important thing is about convincing others. So you need to learn how to convince others of your ideas. Typically over cultural barriers, over different time zones. In writing, there is a lot of communication and people aspect that will make you a better human being at the end of it.
Yeah.
But you need to realize that there is all of that, and a lot of people feel very much upset about it. Essentially.
Why do you think they feel upset about it?
Well, it's because they think, oh, I've done my work, I've done my code, take it.
Yeah.
And in fairness, no, that's not how it works. It's you need to convince us that this is a problem. Okay, especially if you want to add a new feature.
Yeah.
Or even if you're fixing a bug that is a hard one that you are probably facing during your day-to-day, then you need to be able to convey and do all the things that are needed for that change to land. Like we have landed this week a pull request on Node that was open for 2 years.
2 years, wow.
2 years. It took 2 years to ship that because there were some issues, and it took a lot of time to iron out those issues. It took 2 years, and you need to realize you need to be able to, if you want to be part and contribute, you need to put the effort required and stayed on the project. It doesn't end when you open a pull request.
Yeah.
It ends when it lands.
Yeah.
To some extent. And so between the two steps, it might take some time and some rework. And the feedback, the level of feedback that you get can be. It's typically, even if it's friendly and it's very friendly feeling, it's very friendly language and very welcoming and so on. It's still pretty, can be still pretty hard.
Yeah.
So you don't, especially in contributing on a big project like Node, you don't need to be feeling intimidated by the project, by the folks working there.
Yeah.
And then you need to stick through, and possibly don't start with the big changes. Start with the small ones. So there are a lot of issues with a flag, good first issue.
Yeah.
So you can start with those and start cracking those one after the other.
Sure. Okay.
So yeah, that's my best suggestion, I would say. So, stick through and keep going.
Okay, well that was great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Katie.
Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Yay! To watch it.